He's going to turn out.
Oh, no, he might be good now. Oh, I think he's squeezing. I think he's about to tap. He taps. Wow. Wow, he finishes Sean O'Malley. Submit Sean O'Malley.
God
and still
damn.
Merab Dvalishvili. Holy shit. Runs over to Dana White. Runs over to Donald Trump. Wow.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Damn.
Merab defending his title, and he did just that. This time, a little different than the performance back in September. This time, he successfully submits Sugar Sean O'Malley. Just the second submission of his illustrious career, his 13th straight UFC victory. He wins via north-south choke in the third round with just a few seconds remaining. I was just about to tweet. I had it 30-27 for Merab up until that point, but then he scores the submission, and it was a dominant performance. But really, like, you hear 30-27, you hear the choke, you hear Merab wins. It doesn't really tell the story of the fight because Sugar's takedown defense improved dramatically. He stuffed at least more than 6. The final stats are still being tallied, but he was a much more well-rounded fighter than the one that we saw back in September at the Sphere. But in the end, once again, Merab's pace, just unbelievable. His grappling, he fought for all those takedowns, and if he didn't succeed once, twice, 3 times.
It's Sean O'Malley. They're calling it north-south choke. It's kind of like a weird version of it, but nevertheless, a north-south choke at 4:42 of the third round. All right. So what is the story of this fight? The story of this fight, I think, is 2 big things, now that I think about it. The first, and we'll get to all of the nuts and bolts about this, the first part of the story is about all of the improvements that Sean O'Malley had to make. All of the things that caused him problems in the first fight and having to answer for that this time. I don't mean changing his focus like he's not jacking off, which was literally a thing that he brought up, or not dyeing his hair, or, not smoking weed and no social media. Those are fine things to do, especially anything that's taking away your focus, but that's really not what I'm talking about. Not exactly. What I'm talking about is the very specific conditions in the first fight that caused him problems.
All right, the fight went down, the cage door closed, and now that the dust has settled, everyone has their answer. But before things got real, the experts had already made their picks. Let's go back and see where some of the biggest voices in combat sports placed their money. We're kicking it off with Michael Bisping. Bisping took a good look at Merab and saw a fighter who had been leveling up, not just physically, but mentally too. With each win, especially over tough opponents like those with the Nurmagomedov name, Merab looked more and more like a real champion. Bisping believed Merab was not just holding the belt, but proving that he deserved it. He was not a flash in the pan or someone who just got lucky one night. He was evolving into a serious problem for anyone at the top. And according to Bisping, Merab had grown into someone who was mentally stronger than the rest of the division. He was confident, sharp, and completely sure of himself. Bisping even went as far as to say that Merab might be on his way to becoming one of the greatest bantamweights ever, not just because of his wins, but because of the way he handled each fight.
Now, Merab has grown in confidence. He's got better. He's had validation, beating people like the Nurmagomedovs. He's defended the belt. He's the champion. He's not a fluke. He's not a one-trick pony. And he's growing in confidence, in stature. Mentally, he's better than everybody.
I believe I can beat this guy again.
He might just be the best bantamweight of all time. But we're going to find out on Saturday because Sean O'Malley's coming back into this one with a bang.
I feel like I can win this fight in any which way.
Still, Bisping did not count Sean out. He gave him credit for working hard to fix his mistakes. He felt Sean would come in with a better game plan this time, more focused on stopping takedowns and popping back up when things hit the mat. Bisping expected a better version of Sean and predicted that he would find more success than before. But at the end of the day, Bisping leaned toward Merab. He pointed out that fighters with strong wrestling, endless gas tanks, and a never-quit mindset are a nightmare for almost anyone, especially someone like Merab, who stays in your face and never backs down. Bisping believed the fight would be closer, but he still saw Merab walking out with the belt.
Now, I think he's going to do better than what he did in the first fight, but I just think stylistically, Merab's a problem. These wrestlers of that kind of caliber that have that kind of cardio and pace and will to win, they're a nightmare. Merab's a short guy, and that makes him short and stocky, gives him a thick neck and a big chin. That's really good for absorbing shots. And of course, if he gets on the inside, as I said earlier, all the beautiful punches and kicks, they don't mean shit. Merab's going to get on the inside. That's what he does. I do believe Sean's going to have some success. He is going to stop some takedowns. I think he's going to work really hard on getting back to his feet throughout the entire training camp. So he's going to have more success. It will be a closer fight. But make no mistake, when the dust settles, I do believe Merab Dvalishvili will still be.
Let's keep it rolling, because another voice fans tuned in for was the MMA guru. Known for his sharp takes and brutal honesty, he also backed Merab, though not without a flicker of doubt. At first, Guru briefly considered that Sean might finally crack the code this time, but in the end, he still leaned toward Merab, and it mostly came down to Sean's mindset. He explained that Sean had never really been dominated on the ground before, which gave him a certain confidence, maybe even some arrogance, about keeping the fight standing, but that confidence took a major hit after getting ragdolled by Merab. This time, Guru believed Sean would walk into the cage with that memory burned in. He would not be thinking about how good his takedown defense was. He would be thinking about how easily he got tossed around. And that kind of doubt, according to Guru, could throw off Sean's striking rhythm completely. To him, it was not just about skill. It was about Merab already getting inside Sean's head. And once a fighter started second-guessing themselves, it was a tough climb back.
Okay, and then Sean, Merab. Who do you have in that one?
I got Merab. I worry that O'Malley could pull it off this time.
Yeah.
But I think Merab. I think there's an arrogance to O'Malley's stand-up where he hasn't been mauled on the ground, so it's not going to happen to him. But now he'll be operating the stand-up of the fight, not under this impression that Aljo couldn't take me down.
Yeah. Oh no.
I've got great takedown defense.
Yeah.
He will be operating under the condition that he ragdolled me last time. So there will be more second guessing on the feet from O'Malley.
Rob Whittaker, someone who's been through the wars himself and knows what it's like to break down elite level fighters. His prediction wasn't just based on stats or recent headlines. Rob looked at both fighters with a mix of appreciation and sharp insight. Right off the bat, he shared how fascinated he was by Sean O'Malley's striking. He called Sean a clinical sharpshooter, someone who moved in ways most fighters couldn't. His angles, his instincts, the way he read situations in real time. Rob found all of that exciting to watch. It wasn't just about flashy moves for Sean, it was how quickly he adjusted, how unpredictable he was when he flowed into his attacks. Rob seemed genuinely drawn to the way Sean made a fight feel electric every time he stepped into the cage.
But Rob, what do you think about this fight, man?
Yeah, I'm very interested in it. Obviously, how the fight came about is whatever, but any fight Sean's in, because he's such a sharp shooter, his striking is so clinical and so unorthodox. His angles, his instincts, like he doubles down on his instincts in the game, like in live. It is so good to watch. I just really like what.
But when it came to Merab, Rob had a different kind of respect. He saw him as a fighter whose story people wanted to keep watching. To Rob, Merab represented the underdog who just kept grinding. That cardio-heavy, pressure-filled style made him someone impossible to ignore. Rob talked about how Merab wore down his opponents with relentless wrestling, and how once they got tired, Merab flipped the fight in his favor. He didn't just win rounds, he broke people.
Watching it. Now, Merab's a story we all want to keep seeing go the distance, right?
Yeah.
He's the fairy tale ending, everyone. And I said this the first time I broke down their fight. I want to see that cardio machine, that high-spirited Merab do the impossible. Just, constantly take down people, gas out people time and time again by doing what he does well, which is mixing in his wrestling, which opens up hands once his opponent gets tired. Then he just takes control of the fight and controls the fight, the distance that way.
Yeah.
I want to see that story continue. I wanted to see it with Colby. We didn't. I wanted to see it with lots of other fighters. Usman. We did.
Whittaker pointed out that he had hoped to see this kind of success story before with other fighters, but it never fully played out. This time, though, he felt like Merab had a real chance to make it happen. Rob wanted to see Merab's style work, to watch that pressure and pace keep overwhelming elite opponents. Still, he brought a balanced view. He talked about how Sean claimed injuries had affected his takedown defense in their first meeting, and Rob believed that even a small drop in speed or reaction time could change everything, especially when a sniper like Sean was involved. involved. That tiny delay in timing could mean the difference between landing a knockout shot or getting taken down.
I want to see that story with Merab. I want to see him do that to his opponents. But, right, Sean, after the fight, said he had some injuries. Obviously, that affected his early takedowns, early takedown defense once he started getting fatigued. Obviously, when a sharpshooter like Sean starts to get fatigued, he loses that microsecond of timing, of speed, and it changes the entire fight. Now that Sean's had a feel of Merab, now that he's been in there with him for 5 rounds, now that he's not injured, perhaps, whether he was or was not, what are we going to see?
And then there was Merab's fight with Omar. Rob saw that matchup as a key part of Merab's development. Omar was no joke on the feet, and he also had strong wrestling. The fact that Merab stayed active and tested himself against someone like Omar gave Rob the feeling that Merab came into this second fight sharper and more prepared. In the end, Rob looked at both sides. He acknowledged the danger Sean brings with his striking and how quickly he can flip a fight with just one clean shot, but he also respected Merab's ability to drag his opponents into deep water and take over. For Rob, it wasn't about picking favorites. It was about understanding the chaos that could unfold and appreciating both sides of it.
Said he's a sharpshooter, and the thing is, Sean, this is what makes him so dangerous. In that first fight, whenever they were at striking range, my hackles were up. Like I was on the edge of my seat because you're just waiting for Sean to connect. And honestly, we're going to be feeling much the same emotions on the roller coaster this next fight because Sean is so good at what he does. He needs a split second to switch someone off to change the entire dynamic of a fight. Yeah. Now, I think that Umar fight put Merab in a great position to fight Sean. Umar's no slouch when it comes to striking. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
He does a lot of flashy stuff as well, not to mention the threat of the wrestling as well and the defense of the wrestling. So I think that was a great precursor to this second fight with Sean. And I think him staying active against such high-level competition is going to feed into his.
Coming off Rob Whittaker's thoughtful take, we jump into what Max Holloway had to say. And true to his style, Max didn't lock himself into picking one side. He kept it real and gave props where they were due. Max saw both fighters as absolute beasts. He didn't lean too hard towards Sean or Merab. Instead, he focused on what fans could expect when these two stepped in the cage again. From his point of view, the rematch felt like a fresh start. He didn't think it would look anything like their first meeting, even though Merab clearly took control of that one.
Really not going to choose one for this one. Merab's a beast. Sugar's a beast. I think us fans, people who are going to be tuning in on Saturday, we're going to be in for a treat, man. I think so. I know this first fight, Merab really ran away from it, but I think this fight is going to be a fun one, man. I think it's going to be a fun one.
He reminded everyone that judging a fight isn't always black and white. Depending on how you looked at it, someone could have made an argument for Sean in their first bout, at least based on certain judging criteria. But at the end of the day, Max boiled it down to one simple truth: only the judges' opinions count on fight night. No matter what the fans or fighters think afterward, it's those three people scoring the bout that shape the result.
And I think it's going to be exciting. I think so. It's not going to look like the first fight. But even if you watch the first fight, right? The first fight was, if you go off of certain things of like how we're supposed to judge fights, I could see why you can make a statement for Sean O'Malley, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, there's only 3 guys in the world opinion that matters that night, and doing Merab. I think this fight is going to be super fun.
That said, Max made it clear he was excited for the rematch. He believed fans were in for something special. He liked where Sean's mindset seemed to be heading into the fight. Based on the way Sean carried himself in interviews and how composed he looked, Max felt that something had shifted. It wasn't just about showmanship anymore. He noticed real focus. And then there's Merab. Max didn't need to explain much there. He called him the Machine for a reason. Everyone knew what Merab brought to the table: relentless pace, pressure, and pure grind. Max seemed impressed with both sides and wasn't about to underestimate either one.
Like I said, I think Sean O'Malley is locked in. I like where his headspace is right now. Been seeing his interviews floating around the internet. I like the way he carries himself. I like the way he's talking. Merab is Merab. He's the Machine. It's hard to bet on either of these. These odds is crazy. You know what I mean? Plus 260. Not crazy because Merab did what he did in the first fight, but these odds are interesting, I would say. Interesting. And I mean, we just sit back and see. You know, I'm not gonna really pick one. I think so. I'm gonna enjoy that main event, and we see what happens.
After hearing all these predictions, it only made sense to hear what Sean O'Malley, the fighter who lost last time, had to say about the fight. When asked why he lost the first fight, Sean said it was because his preparation was not where it needed to be. He had a torn labrum in his left hip and could not train properly. That injury stopped him from wrestling the way he needed to against Merab, who is known for his wrestling and pressure. Sean admitted it was an excuse, but also said it was the truth. For this fight, Sean said he prepared much better. He felt confident about his training camp and how ready he was for everything Merab would bring. He expected to have to wrestle and defend takedowns more than usual.
My man, why did you lose the last fight? Why did you lose the last fight to this guy? What happened?
Well, you know what? It's because I didn't know. I need to get a second belt now. You know, I lose that fight, I get to beat him now, and I get another belt. So it kind of was the thought process behind that one, Steven. No, I'm kidding. The preparation wasn't where it needed to be going into that first fight. I had a torn labrum. You know, it's an excuse, but it's the truth. I had a torn labrum in my left hip. I wasn't able to wrestle the way I needed to be able to wrestle and prepare for a guy like Merab. They call him the machine for a reason. And this camp, I was able to do that. I'm very confident.
When asked if he thought he would have to grapple more than try to finish the fight quickly, Sean agreed. He said he planned for Merab to get inside and wrestle, but Sean also believed he could still land a clean shot and end the fight early. He explained that Merab made a lot of mistakes, and Sean could take advantage of those to get a knockout.
He was so willing to grapple. Do you believe that you're going to have to grapple with him and wrestle in order to win this fight, as opposed to catching him right like you normally do with most others?
100%. Like I'm prepared and planned on him being able to get in and wrestle and me having to defend it. But you know, there's a world where I do land that shot. I do put his lights out. I do get him out of there early. He makes a lot of mistakes, and you can't make too many mistakes against me without going to sleep. So I'm prepared to wrestle. I'm prepared to grapple. I'm prepared to, you know, go to war for 25 minutes. But you know, I'm very capable of getting him out of there. He does make a lot of mistakes.
So Sean was ready to fight hard for all 25 minutes if needed, but he also believed he had the skill to finish the fight fast if the chance came.
What's your expectation? How do you expect this fight to end if you are to become a two-time UFC bantamweight champion?
I'm prepared for a 25-minute war. Like, I would not be surprised if I get my hand raised and knew first round KO, second round KO. I know I can put his lights out. I know I can. He's sloppy. He's mastered his style. He's really good at it, but it takes one mistake. Aljo made that one mistake in the second round. It takes one mistake for me to put someone's lights out, for the fight to change. So I wouldn't be surprised to get him out of there early, but I'm prepared and plan to go with 25 minutes.
In the end, both fighters adjusted and brought their best. The fans got the fight they wanted, and it was intense. Tell us in the comments who you thought had the edge before the fight. Were you backing Merab's pressure or Sean's knockout power? We'll be waiting to hear your thoughts.